Today, we look back on what happened last weekend with the results. We predict the future fixtures here on the show for the Marshall and the Owl. Welcome to Pitch Eye with myself, Sean Ryan, radio, the podcast dedicated to grassroots rugby across Canada. And today, as always, we're looking at the Marshall, we're looking at the Owl. We are taking a look at what happened last week, as well as looking to the future, looking into what's going to happen, and make some decent predictions. And hopefully, we get them right. Now, if you are jumping into the action, your first time, what is the Owl? What is the Marshall? You got a load of questions. You got to check out the other podcasts episodes where you get a better insight into the story of the Marshall and the Owl, how things are unfolding each week, as well as some nitty-gritty details that we add into the mix every week, including previous matchups in championships, rival days, club days, all those sorts of things. We have it all in all the episodes, which add that little bit of flavor to each episode so you're getting a bite size of information to add to your knowledge of the leagues. Now, as always, we start off with the Owl, and I think I did a pretty decent week. I think it's a week that could have went either way, but I think I did pretty well. So in the Premiership, we'll start with the Aurora Barbarians versus the Toronto Nomads. Aurora Barbarians came out on top 46-10. Guelph versus Bradford Harlequins. As I said, this one was going to be a very big matchup. It was going to be tight. It was going to be close. I was expecting maybe single digits. It unfortunately just went out of that bracket. Guelph winning that one 41, Bradford Harlequins 31. So 10 points. Wasn't too far off, but I did predict Guelph to win. They just are the stronger side at the moment. And last but not least, the fixture, the Scarborough Aces versus the Oshawa Vikings. This result came in just before I started recording, so I'm really delighted that I am able to present it. But the Scarborough Aces, unfortunately, didn't reach the mark. 5-84, Oshawa Vikings winning away from home. So big result for them. Really definitive win. But I predicted all three to win. I had it down that Oshawa, Guelph, and Aurora to take the W's this weekend, and they certainly did that. Now, when we look at the standings, who sits at the top? It's no other than Guelph, 24 points. So they've just missed out on one bonus point on their run so far, but they're doing fantastic. Won every single game. Aurora Barbarians are in its second with 21 points. Bradford Harlequins in a third with 16. The Oshawa Vikings then in a fourth with 12. The Scarborough Aces in a fifth with 5 points. And the Toronto Nomads sit at the bottom with 1 point to show. So we're seeing the league kind of form similar enough to what we had last year is what we're seeing, which is very, very interesting. I'm always looking forward to an upset and stuff like that, but we're seeing a lot of similarities to last year is what we're seeing at the moment. Now, when we look at the predictions, when we look at what's happened this weekend, the first one we got to look at is the Toronto Nomads versus Guelph. I say this about most teams, but this is the Guelph and Goliath right now. Nomads with 1 point, Guelph with 24 after 5 games, so big difference. The last time these two teams faced, Guelph took home the W 58-5. So they are clearly the favorites. I expect them to win. I would be absolutely shocked. I think the whole of Ontario would be shocked if this game is single digits of a difference. I think if Toronto Nomads win, I think there'll be fireworks over at the Toronto Nomads. I think they'll have a party and celebration. Because this one is a very big one to win and very, very unlikely as of previous results and the way things are going for both teams at the moment. The next fixture looked at is the Aurora Barbarians versus the Oshawa Vikings. These two teams very, very competitive, as we saw. Aurora sitting in second place. They've only lost one game. The Oshawa Vikings getting those key wins. This one is going to be interesting because the last time these two teams faced was the scoreline of 34-3 with Aurora winning that one. So very, very comfortable by the Barbarians. I would expect the Barbarians to do the same job, but you never know with this Oshawa Viking side. They can always turn up the heat, the pressure. Will they be able to do it on a day? I think they mightn't have the edge of the sword to get the job done, but I'm looking forward to seeing how that one actually plays out at the weekend in the Owl Premiership. Now, last but not least, Bradford Harlequins versus the Scarborough Ace. The last time these two teams faced, it was 116 to 5 for the Bradford Harlequins. So I think it's clear as day who I think is going to win. Well, we see that big of a scoreline. I wouldn't be surprised. Um, because the difference between these two teams is seems like massive when you look at the score lines, when you look at previous matches, how they all played out and all that jazz. So I'm not going to be surprised, but Bradford Harlequins to win it. Another one of those ones where if Scarborough wins, it's definitely going to be a big upset to the system. Now, if you are enjoying the show, as always, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit 5 stars on the Spotify. Give a nice review. It helps massively grow the sport here in Canada. It helps grow the community. It gets better understanding. More people want to get involved. Better coverage. So it's a domino effect. That's how it happens. That's how it works. And I'm always trying to up my game. And if there's something like that you feel like in the comment section that you're like, "Oh, Sean, you should do this or you should do that," or if you want to private message me so I can get better at presenting or having different individuals on. Um, I the one thing is that people would love to do interviews. I know that's one thing that I would love to do. I just don't have the capabilities of it. I've tried it before, and due to the summer heat and my laptop's capabilities, unfortunately, we wouldn't get the coverage that I'd want. At the end of the day, we might have some glitches, we might have some green screens and stuff like that happening, overheating and all that sort of stuff. So it's not very pleasant if I do interviews right now, but it is something I want to do. So just to let it out there, if someone's like, you should do interviews, that's my reasoning behind it. So one of the things I do want to get this year, or maybe by the end of the year, definitely upgrade to a PC, better equipment, and be able to do these podcasts and have chats with absolutely fantastic people across Ontario. But yeah, but if you do want to help, as I said, like, share, subscribe, and hit the 5 stars on the Spotify, and maybe do a review. It's up to you. And now we'll move to the Owl Championship. What happened at the weekend? We had 3 games at the weekend. Um, when we normally have 4, and I'll go through why we don't have that fourth game. So the Kingston Panthers were against the Burlington Centaurs. Kingston Panthers winning that one 84 to 5. So big, big win for the Kingston Panthers. They are looking like a different side this year. They look like they could possibly try and take that second spot over on the east side of the championship. So they are going to be very competitive, and I'm looking forward to seeing them play again against Peterborough later on in the season because they're going to be hungry. They're going to be hungry, and that's one that they definitely need to take hold of, take a grasp of, and it's a must-win game for them. I think in the sights of how they're performing right now. Now, the Belleville Bulldogs versus Waterloo County. Belleville sitting at the bottom of the championship in the East. They got some very tough competition, but they are well able to compete. They got the win over Waterloo, 36 to 34. So a very tightly contested game. Probably was very scrappy. Probably closer to the end. A lot of tension rising from both camps, hoping to win the game. But Belleville got on top on that one. And then last but not least, Peterborough Pagans versus London St. George. Peterborough Pagans winning that one comfortably, 53 to 7. So they had a good win there. Good win. They got a lot of plays and got to, uh, change it up, I suppose, in a sense that, when you have that much of a lead, you have the capabilities of doing different things to make yourself creative, make your team have a lot of fun. And definitely with that scoreline, they probably did that. London St. George still need to figure themselves out. I know they had that win against Belleville, which was absolutely massive for them, but I think they're going to need a lot more to get the job done or get out of that relegation zone in the championship. Now, one of the games that didn't go ahead was the Ottawa Irish versus the Toronto Scottish. I am unsure of why this game didn't go ahead, but on the official Rugby Ontario website that is holding all this information for me and where I get access to this, uh, it is going to be held on the 25th of July 2026. So it must have been postponed, might have been due to weather, might have been due to other factors. But it was supposed to be up in Twin Elms, so I don't think it would have been pitch related unless they overbooked the pitch by mistake. But look, we'll have the game. It's going to be later on in the season, and I look forward to seeing how that all plays out. Now, as the table stands, we are in a bit of a how does it actually stand? Because two teams are a game, they have a game in hand. But as of right now, the Ottawa Irish still sit at the top with 20 points after 4 games. The Peterborough Pagans then are in at second with 20 points. Kingston Panthers are in third with 15. Burlington Centaurs in at fourth with 14. The Waterloo are in fifth with 12. Belleville Bulldogs with 5 in sixth position. Seventh then is the Scottish with 4 points after 4 games, and then London St George 4 points after 5 games at the bottom. Now, we did discuss there previously about points difference and the table and all that sort of stuff, and we got a better insight because on the website it gives it. There's a little footer that I misread, and the way that it works for these leagues is that points is the first key factor. Second is the forfeit. So if you forfeit a game, you're pretty much any of those equal points, you're going to be at the bottom. Number of wins is your next thing, and then your head to heads, and then it's your points difference. So that's the way they're working at the Rugby Ontario standings. That's how it's working. So at least we got that knowledge. At least we get a better insight into how it all works. But very interesting in its own right that I would have put maybe points difference over head to head. But look, that's the way they're doing it. That's the way it's going. Now, in terms of predicting the future, my favorite part of the segment, we've got the this week we have a return week in the Premiership, which is a lot of fun. We get to see games that we we've seen already earlier in the season, and they get to get revenge, which is a lot of fun. The Ottawa Irish will be playing Belleville this weekend, and the last time out, the Ottawa Irish won 86-0. So I think we're going to go with the Ottawa Irish to get the job done. They are at home. I expect probably a similar result. Burlington Centaurs versus London St George. We saw it earlier in the season, 61-15 for the Burlington Centaurs. They're at home this time. I think it's going to be an easier game for them. Obviously, it depends on how the weather is going to be on Saturday, but it's going to be an important one for Burlington to kind of get back into the string of things. I know they had a big loss there against Kingston, but they still are top of the West. They still hold that position, and if they want to continue doing that, they got to win this game against London St George to kind of cement that position for them. But they've been doing fantastic. Then we have Peterborough Pagans versus Kingston Panthers. I said it earlier on. This is going to be the game that we're going to be looking at. Peterborough won last time out, 2010. They were away from home. They're going to be home this time out. It puts the pressure on Kingston Panthers to get the job done, but they've just had 2 fantastic wins. They've been dominating some of the games they've been playing. So the formation, the mindset, things are working in the camp. Really positive stuff. So it could see it going either way, just the way things are in form. I'm still going to go with Peterborough because I do think that they are the second best team. But honestly, if the Kingston Panthers get it out, I'm going to be super proud of them. I'm going to be absolutely delighted for them in that sense because they've definitely upped their game since last season. And then last but not least, the Toronto Scottish versus Waterloo. Last time out, Waterloo winning that fixture 31-21. So I think maybe Waterloo might have the edge, but they are away from home, and it's not easy to win it away from home. So I'm gonna go with Waterloo. I think it's gonna be tighter. I think it's gonna be between 3 points. I think it's gonna be that way, unless something drastic has happened in the meantime. Now, if you are looking for more rugby, if you're especially in Ontario, but across Canada, and you're looking like, I want to know scores, I want to know up to dates, I want to get the information quick, I want to be a part of the community, I want to learn more, I want to, you want to know more about rugby here in Canada. Well, the best place to go is my Instagram. You can see the little tag or the account at so Sean_Ryan_radio. It's just in the corner. I think it's this corner. Maybe it's this corner. One of the corners. But I post a lot of things about different leagues, about photo. We do photos with players. I do collaborations with photographers. I collaborate a lot with the leagues and a lot of chat, and you get a lot of information during your week. if you're like, oh God, I need something more than the podcast, that's the place to go. Go onto the Instagram. That's where the information is going to be. Now, as of right now, as I mentioned, we are battling it out with Aaron Gazzola with the predictions for the Premiership, and I'm super delighted that I got the upper hand last weekend. And I'll tell you the results as they came in. Now, starting off, Waterloo versus Balmy Beach. What a game it was! Like, we really didn't know which way it was going to go. Me and Aaron both predicted that it was going to be a tight one, a very, um, straight up. It was going to be Waterloo to win, but very tight. Weren't expecting much in that respect. I had 32 to 28. He had 35 to 31. So very tight numbers. But they came up, Waterloo came up 64 to 29 at home. So big win for them. Very important win as well because we were a bit doubtful in terms of this Waterloo side. Are they able to kind of climb themselves back up? Is this just a minor thing that's happening at the moment for them? Because they did start off very on the edge. There was a couple of close games, don't get me wrong, but they just weren't getting able to get the wins that they were more than capable of doing last season. So it was a very important fixture there. Then we had London St. George versus Burlington Centres. I went for 8-28 for Burlington Centres to win away from home. Aaron went with 14-35. But the result was 28-45 in the results. So it was a bit more of a scoring game. My predictions were coming off the back of London St. George not being able to do double digits. This was a game they were able to do double digits. I'm hoping they got the bonus point, and we'll see that in a second when we go through the standings. But yeah, another big win for Burlington. They seem unstoppable right now. They seem like the team to beat. They're cementing their position as top of the table with this win, but also putting their sights in having good standings when we come to the McCormick Cup. How is that all going to unfold? And this is just another win under their belt. Then we get to the two games that are the most important ones because this is the ones where I took the cake, where I took the advantage. Aurora Barbarians versus Bradford Harlequins. As we looked at the standings, there was a lot of people going for Bradford Harlequins to win that one. And I was saying, look, this Aurora team had a big win last weekend. They were at home last weekend. I said my piece. I said my points. I said, look, they're going to edge it. They're going to get the points to get the job done. I didn't think as much points as the scoreline is going to suggest, but I did think they had the edge to win it. I went with 32 to 30. Aaron went with 26 to 41. The final score at the end of the day was 35 to 20. So wasn't too far off in the Aurora side of things. It was 3 points off. Bradford Harlequins was a bit different, but super delighted for Aurora. This definitely shakes up the table. It definitely puts could I say, like a blanket over the Bradford Harlequins. They would have been seen as favourites, the team to just dominate. They did have a few hurdles last year, but we've seen this team rise to the remarks when it comes to the playoffs. But this is a very important win for them. They won last year as well. That was another key figure for it. And they get the job done again. This is going to be a haunting ground for Bradford Harlequins when they have to face here again, next season. And then last but not least, the Toronto Scottish versus the Crusaders. Now, I know Aaron is commentating for the Crusaders, so he's going to be tilted that direction when it comes to the predictions. But we both said it was going to be tight. We did say, I will give credit where credit is due. We both said it was going to be tight. I went with Toronto Scottish to win 28-25, so 3 points of a difference. Aaron went with 24 to 27 with the Crusaders winning away from home. The final result at the end of the day was the Toronto Scottish winning 28 to 10 at Sunnybrook Park. So another big win for the Scottish. They are a different team from what they were last year. And going off their heat streak, they are building this heat streak. They're building the flames. And they're climbing up the ranks because of it. So super delighted to see that. Now, when we look at the standings, Burlington Centres, as I said, sit at the top, 19 points at the top of the table. Aurora Barbarians sitting in at second with 15 points. The Toronto Scottish then at third with 14 points. Bradford Harlequins then in fourth with 11 points. The Crusaders in at fifth with 10 points. Balmy Beach in at sixth with 9. Waterloo then in at 7 with 6 points. And London St. George in at the bottom with 1 point, or eighth place. So very interesting to see that that the gap between uh, those bottom three positions is only 8 points, 2 games. That win for Waterloo is very, very important for them uh, because it tightens up the gap between themselves and sixth place. I think if they didn't get the win, they would be falling behind and would be looking at London or Waterloo then to be finishing seventh or eighth. I know we're not a halfway point of the season. I know there's still plenty to go through, but these little moments are very key to how things are going to play out, and this is definitely a key moment for Waterloo when we come to the standings. Now, in terms of predictions, what are we going to do? What are we going to predict? Right. So you're going to get my predictions here in terms of who I think is going to win, and you'll see my results later on today when this episode is posted at 12 o'clock Ontario time. And the only reason you know it comes out at 12 o'clock Ontario time is if you're subscribed and you get the notification. So make sure you subscribe. But um, we start off with Bradford Harlequins, Bambi Beach. This one is a classic. This one is an iconic match in so many different regards because we're not looking at two fantastic teams. We're looking at two amazing teams. We look at McCormick Cups behind their backs. They are two of the best to look at in this league when it comes to historical background. They did this in the McCormick Cup final of 2024, where Bama Beach won in the final moments of that game. So this game in itself is probably the biggest one of the weekend, and I'm surprised if any other game is going to be highlighted more than this game in Ontario. Um, Last time out, when they faced each other, 102-5 for the Quins, and this was at the Bradford Harlequins home ground. So I would expect, I don't think I would expect that result. I don't think 102 this time around is going to happen. I think this Miami Beach side is a little bit more different. There's a little more edge to them so far in the season. Um, they've been able to pick up bonus points. They've been able to do that sort of stuff. So this is a big positive in that regard. I think we're looking for a tighter game, but this Bama Beach side are just so dominant at home. Um, I think I wouldn't be surprised by double digits, but I highly doubt that Bradford Harlequins win with triple digits under their belt. I would be shocked if they could do that again against Bambi Beach, but I do have Bradford Harlequins to win. Now, the Crusaders versus London St. George. Last time out, the Crusaders won this fixture back in 2024, 29-24. So very tightly contested game that time around. We're looking at two teams that are on the bottom half of the table as it sits right now. But this London St. George side is still trying to figure itself out. And I think there's still a bit of work to do. I think last weekend's result is very positive, 28 points. Getting that bonus point, very very important. Um, but I think Crusaders probably have that bit of an edge, especially at home. So I'm gonna go with the Crusaders to get the job done. But I am interested to see how this story progresses for London St. George. Can they dig themselves out of the pit? Because realistically, this is the game they need to win if they want to get themselves out of that eighth position spot. Now, we move on swiftly to the Burlington Centres versus Waterloo County, the top versus seventh. So this is a big match for Waterloo. As I was saying, they want to close the gap between themselves and the top half of the table. They sit at seventh at the moment. A win would put them in a decent position to climb the ranks. It still won't get them out of the bottom half, but certainly will get them closer to being in the top half. Burlington Centres, of course, sitting at the top, missing only one bonus point since the start of the season. But last time out, Burlington won this fixture at home 34-7. So this is going to be a bit of an uphill battle for Waterloo in that sense. But I think Burlington still have that edge. They still have a lot of power in them. Their squad is very, very talented this year. Could this be their year? Am I calling it too early? Maybe it could be. I think they're in a very good position, and obviously when we look at the McCormick Cup and how that's all going to unfold, that definitely paints a different picture. But they certainly are putting themselves in the best position possible to be taking home the McCormick Cup. And I think they're going to win this weekend. Aurora Barbarians versus the Toronto Scottish. Now, two teams that have been doing fantastic. So this game is going to be very, very tight. I think we could see it going either way. Scottish won last time out with the scoreline of 12-35 away from home. Oh, bless me. Sorry about that. But the last time out, it was a big win for them. Now they're both very, very competitive teams, sitting in second and third. So this is going to be one of those matchups where, if you're looking at the standings, this is a very important game and probably the most important game for them. I think due to the fact that Aurora have been doing so good at home, I think they are finding their home advantage to them. Um, and the energy that's coming off there. I'm gonna go with them. I feel like I'm making the wrong choice. There's a part of me that's saying I'm making the wrong choice, but I do feel that they've done so well at home. A third weekend in a row being at home definitely builds up the energy, definitely builds the excitement within the team and the supporting fans and whatnot. I think that's going to push them over the edge, and especially that big win against Bradford Harlequins, a team that um, has been historically so dominant in the last decade, is massive. Is massive. So I'm going to go with them to win. It is a bit of an uphill battle due to the fact that they lost last year, but I think the Toronto Scottish definitely will bring up the levels. They'll put the pressure on. They'll put the excitement level up to take the W. But I think Aurora will end up with the win, and I do think it's going to be tight. I do think it's going to be within one score. Um, Now, looking at the most important thing, because I know you guys absolutely love this results, it is the predictions on the Instagram story. And if you're just joining and you're like, what are you talking about? What predictions? How do I get involved? You got to check out the Instagram account. As I said, it's in one of these corners. I'll figure out which one, and I'll be more direct next time out. But it's in one of these corners. You follow me on Instagram, and we post this up on Monday. We get the results then on Tuesday, and I put them onto the podcast, so you get the information of what the public are thinking. What is the mindset now? And to be clear, I know some people think, oh, it's only a few people. We're talking about hundreds upon hundreds of people looking at this. Between 400 and 600. It's gotten more over the weeks because of hype and everything like that. But those are the figures. So we got a decent amount of people voting on this sort of stuff, both from fans from different teams as well as the fans from the teams themselves. So we'll start off with a 65% for Burlington Centres to win against Waterloo. 53% for the Toronto Scottish to win against Aurora Barbarians. That's one, and I'm just going against. I think that home advantage is going to be a key figure for them. 78% say Bradford Harlequins to win over Bradford or Bambi Beach. My apologies. And then 88% for Oakville Crusaders to win against London St. George. So very interesting predictions. I think the Burlington Centaurs and the Toronto Scottish ones are the ones that could be up in the air in that sense, just based on those pollings. But the Oakville Crusaders and the Bradford Harlequins seem like a very definitive answer from the public. Now, last but not least, the championship. We look at the results over the weekend. Guelph versus Bytown Blues. Guelph 34, Bytown Blues 36. So very tightly contested one. I did think it was going to be an interesting one. I believe I went with Guelph last weekend. Due to the fact of being at home, Bytown having the distance to go. But no, they showed up. They won by 2 points. It must have been an absolute cracker of a game. For both teams. And definitely, they're two fantastic teams so far this season. So I'm not surprised by the result, but it must have been an absolute cracker to be down there, both as a Bytown fan and as a rugby fan, watching that one. Ajax Wanderers versus the Oshawa Vikings. Ajax Wanderers 84. The Oshawa Vikings 15. So massive, massive win for Ajax. We said it again. It was club day at Ajax. This is a rivalry as well. One of the biggest ones in Ontario. So this is massive. I had text messages been sent to me saying that they were celebrating the day after and maybe even the day after that. I think a lot of them were struggling on Monday. But very, very exciting stuff for the Ajax. Now, Markham Irish versus Peterborough Pagans. Markham Irish 26, Peterborough Pagans 34. So big win for Peterborough. As I said, they're the team that I think are most likely to get promoted at the start of the season. They did have that one loss so far, but they've progressively done fantastic so far this season, and continuing to put the pressure on the top sides. Then we had Niagara versus the Toronto Nomads. They said this was going to be an important one due to the fact that relegation's on the table. The bottom side of this group is getting relegated, and one of the TRU, the NRU, or the Eastern Ontario Rugby Union's teams will be coming in next year. So you don't want to be in that eighth spot. These two teams are in that predicament as we speak, with the Niagara Wasps in at seventh and the Toronto Nomads in at eighth before this fixture. And the Niagara Wasps did come out on top, 38-19 at home, so big win for them. Um, it's an important fixture because we're going to see the reverse fixture later on in the season, and it's all going to come down to if the Toronto Nomads can win at home later on in the season, as well as the amount of bonus points both teams are going to be picking up during the season. So they're going to be the contributing factors to figuring out who's going to sit at the bottom. Now, as the table stands for right now, Ajax Wanderers sitting at the top of the table with 19 points after 4 games. Guelph in at second with 17 points after 4 games. Peterborough Pagans in at third with 17 points on the table. The difference being the head-to-head between Guelph as well as point difference. In at fourth is the Bytown Blues. They have 11 points to show. The Oshawa Vikings are in at fifth with 10 points. The Markham Irish then are in at sixth with 7 points on the table. The Wasps in at seventh with 4 points on the table. And then the Nomads in at eighth with 0 to show. Now, this means that it's going to be an interesting weekend ahead of us for this upcoming fixtures. We start off with the Oshawa Vikings versus Guelph. Now, this is the first time these teams have met in the regular season since the recordings I have from 2017 to the current year. So I don't really know how it's going to go. Guelph have been very dominant so far this season. The Oshawa Vikings have shown themselves in elements of the season so far. But, they're in the bottom half of the table as it stands right now. They want to be in the top half. So I think they're going to be looking to get the win at home. I think Guelph are going to be putting the pressure on. They want to be putting pressure on Ajax. And I think that's where it's going to lead to. But I think Guelph probably have the power. They are away from home. I think they are going to get the job done on the day. Now, Peterborough versus the Nomads. Last time these encountered at the Nomads' home ground, it was 10-55 for Peterborough Pagans taking the win, of course. So I would expect a similar result. Just based on the form, based on the standings, based on how these two teams are operating as of right now. But yeah, I don't expect anything different. I think that scoreline is probably as accurate as it's going to get in terms of a repeat. We might even see a ditto, just because these two teams are on different calibers right now. But we could see things change. You never know. You never know. Something could change in the Nomads camp, and we could see them win that one. And I will congratulate them. I'll wear the jersey next weekend if the Toronto Nomads win in either the men's or the women's. If they get a win, I'm wearing the Nomads next weekend. That's my promise if that happens. Now, Niagara Wasps versus Bytown Blues. Last time out was Bytown Blues winning that one, 51-40. So very tightly contested game. Bytown now traveling all the way to Niagara. They just had the big journey to Guelph last weekend. So is the element of tiredness going to be a factor this weekend? We don't know. But I feel that Bytown probably have a bit more power under their belt. It's an important win for them because it keeps them in that top half of the table. They sit at fourth as it stands, if I'm not mistaken, with just 1 point of a difference between Oshawa Vikings, who are in fifth. So they'll need to get the win there to kind of push themselves out in front, make the difference, make the being in the top half of the position. Because if we are looking at McCormick Cup standings and how it's going to operate, we're still unsure of how it's actually going to unfold later on in the season. I still feel like it hasn't been confirmed by either the Rugby Ontario website or hasn't made any public statements on how it's all going to unfold. But from my understanding, if you're further up the table, you're going to play a more bottom side of the Premiership, which you want to play a weaker side. You don't want to be playing the top side like Burlington Centres as of right now. So both teams are going to be fighting for the win there, but Bytown is going to be very important in that sense to get themselves on front. And last but not least, Markham Irish versus the Ajax Wanderers. Now this is a fun one. Ajax Wanderers obviously very very good form right now. Markham Irish not so much. But when we look at the last time these two teams face, Markham Irish won that fixture 42 to nil. So is that something to take on board for next for this weekend? Who knows? Who knows? But I am gonna go due to the fact that form has been playing a very good part. I've gone with Ajax. They continue to you know prove that they are a different team. So I'm gonna go with Ajax to get the job done at Markham's home ground this weekend. Now, here we go. Another round of predictions for the public. What do we think? What are we thinking? Ajax Wanderers 64% to win over Markham Irish. So tighter fixture. As I said, that last year fixture is very, very important because it could paint a bit of that picture, but the public are saying 64 for Ajax Wanderers to win over Markham, 77% for Peterborough Pagans to win against the Toronto Nomads, 62% for the Bytown Blues to win over the Niagara Wasps, and 68% for Guelph Goats to win over the Oshawa Vikings. So I'm pretty much on board with the public this time out. I'm just super excited because we're getting closer and closer. We are at the halfway point, I believe, in the Owl, or we're nearly at the halfway point. It's week 5, so this is, yeah, after this weekend will be half the season done in the Owl. But for the Marshall, we have another 1 or 2 weeks left before we get to the halfway point, and that's where the excitement happens. We can see this is where the changes happen from week 1 to week 7, and see those changes and really figure out where the trajectory is going for these clubs. So it's getting exciting. It's getting exciting. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. But if you enjoyed the show as much as I enjoy making this show, make sure you follow, make sure you subscribe. As I said, you'll get the notifications at 12 o'clock Ontario time, noon, not at midnight, where you'll get access to the YouTube as well as the Spotify. Spotify does tend to come out a bit later for whatever reason, but on YouTube it comes out at 12. And if you want to subscribe on or follow on Instagram, do so at Sean_Ryan_radio. It's on your screens as of right now. But yeah, you can find me out. You can learn a bit more about the league, as I mentioned. If you want to help me cover more Canadian rugby, do check out the link in the bio, the link tree. It has everything in terms of discount codes for stuff for Type 5 apparel. They're a really cool brand. I might wear one next week on the show just to show you how cool they are. But also will be, if not, I will be wearing the Toronto Nomads if they win this weekend in either the men's or the women's. That's my promise. But if you do want to help, you check out the Ko-Fi. You can donate there. Helps me, get better lighting, get better equipment. As I said, laptop is a big one that I want to change to a PC and be able to do interviews and stuff like that, and interview some interesting people that people want me to talk to about the sport, about the thing that we love so passionately here in Ontario. But until next time, until we get to chat again and we talk about the weekend, I'm Sean Ryan Radio, the radio guy, the radio man, the Instagram guy, the social media guy, the influencer guy, the guy, the guy. But this has been Pitchside, and I'll see you next week. Woo!